And with that, I would like to turn to our first figure from academia in a long time. We're very excited to be able to welcome Dr. John Crompton to address us here today and share some real insights in terms of the role that recreation plays in this country and around the world. He holds the rank of Distinguished Professor of Recreation, Park, and Tourism Sciences, and he's the Regents Professor at Texas A&M University. He has a very rich academic background, and fortunately all that is reported in the handout that you have, so I'm not going to bother reading all of that, but I do want to say that he's received awards from the National Park Foundation and many other national distinguished organizations. He is a teacher of kids who are out there doing research. His students that have gone on to do research on recreation and tourism matters is a huge group. He is now a board member of the National Recreation Foundation and has served on a variety of boards, both professional and his passionate recreation activities. He has also tried his hand in politics. In fact, he was elected a member of the College Station City Council and is just finishing up his service as the Mayor Pro Tem of College Station, Texas. So if you would, please join me in greeting and welcoming Dr. John Crompton. John.
Well, Derek omitted something from his introduction, and that is he has to tell you that I'm not a native Texan. If you hadn't figured that out before I opened my voice, you've certainly got it figured out now. So I put everything I say on the screen, so if you don't understand what comes out, at least you can see it on the screen, and it's there. And after I was over visiting my mother not too long ago. She died recently, she was in the 90s, and she was in this nursing home, and we were visiting for a while. She sits on the edge of her chair and she says, "Lad, I know you're out there at that big school out there and you're doing something useful and all, but you know, I'm your mother, lad. You don't have to show off to me with your Texas accent." So I have this problem all the time of communicating with the people, and they are, you know, I'm pretty tolerant. I've been at Texas A&M since 1974 now. The only thing that hacks me off is when you accuse me of having an accent, because it's you lad that's got the accent and it's my language. So I just want to put that out there as we start this kind of thing out. As Derek indicated, some of us get a little dumber as we get older. And so 4 years ago, I got myself somewhat serendipitously elected to the City College Station Council. Now, we're a fairly small city, 95,000 people. We've got 900 full-time employees. There's 7 of us on the council, a mayor and 6 councilmen. But all the aggressiveness of Texas politics is loud and clear. And I'm now subject to a recall petition, and there's all kinds of stuff going on, and I'm getting all kinds of abuse, and I received in where we are now and then where I think we're going. Now, we've had in this field, I think, we've been through 5 eras in my professional life since I got off the boat in 1974. 5 eras. I'm going to touch on the past few, and then I'm going to use that as a springboard to leap on forward. So without more ado, if I press this button, something happens. That is the question I have been answering all my professional life. What business are we in? The classic Theodore Levitt question from 1960. What business are we in? And the answer to that, of course, is what needs are we trying to fulfill? And we have answered that question in at least 5 different ways. So when I got off the boat in 1974, we were in what I call the activity custodial era. It was all about producing facilities that are clean, safe, ready to go. It was about, I mean, parks was part of our civic heritage. We'd grown up with it. It was part of the institution of what government did. We were administrators. They gave us dollars. We didn't have partnerships much in those days. We didn't need them. We got dollars to do everything we wanted to do. And so all the focus was on the production of the facility. And then in June 1978, the whole world changed. In June 1978, 8th of June, Proposition 13 passed in California. And that was the watershed of the tax revolt. And suddenly, of course, Ronald Reagan rode that to glory into the White House, and suddenly the whole world changed. Whereas you had got elected on promising people goodies before that time, after that you got elected, as you do today, on promising tax cuts. The world changed. And it caught us, and it was a seismic shift, and it happened very quickly, and it caught us unawares. And so suddenly, from June to September, California had to make massive cuts in budget to accommodate, and all of the other states followed. And so we had a crisis. And I was talking about that with one of my students one time, and we have foreign students. There was a Chinese lad in the class, and he said, "Dr. Crompton, here's how the Chinese write crisis. It's two characters." And he wrote this for me. I couldn't do this. He says, one is danger, and the other is opportunity. So in this crisis, there's a danger, and because there's a danger, it forces you to do something different. And so it creates an opportunity. And then soon after that, I was on a program with the mayor of Boston, a lad named Kevin White. He'd been mayor of Boston for 16 years. And he said something that always stuck with me. He said, "I hate these constant crises, but without them, would we ever get anything done?" And that, of course, is the opportunity dimension to this thing. So we moved from the activity custodial focus to what I call in here the promotion selling focus. Suddenly, we had to be more like a business. This was an alien concept to us. And this mantra comes in about doing more with less. Sick to death of it by now, but it was new in those kinds of days. And we had to sell stuff, we had to remote stuff and all of that. And this word marketing came in, and you know, that was my background. I started out life in the marketing field and so on. And so we shifted, there was a seismic shift. But all of this, there was nothing strategic about this. This was very much at an operational, tactical level. There was nothing strategic about the way that this happened. And presently, immediately before Proposition 13 hit, a paper had been written, which I've gone back and looked at for this presentation. It was written by David Gray and Cy Grieber, the most important paper, I think, has ever been written in this field. It appeared in the July magazine of Parks and Recreation in 1974. David Gray was an academic in California and one of my mentors. Cy Grieber was the director of Parks and Recreation for the city of Los Angeles. And here's what Cy and David wrote. They said, professional perspectives of parks and recreation are activity-centered. In terms of a definition, in terms of activities unsatisfactory, and I'll build on that in a moment. They went on to say, we should have discovered long ago the nature of the business we're in, but we have not. The central questions are not how many were there or who won. The critical question is, what happened to Jose, Mary, Sam and Joan in this experience? So if we're linking with health, what happened to them? So hospitals don't count how many people show up. They count how many people got fixed and went out the other end. I mean, we're still counting how many people showed up. You know, if we're going to link with health, we have to fuss about what happened to people, not how many showed up. And this is 1974 when David and Cy are telling us about this. So we moved on to what I call the user benefit thing. This is marketing. Marketing, of course, was totally screwed up. Nobody understood the word, and it had connotations of selling, and it was all wrong. So we came up with user benefits, a term that Bev Driver in the Forest Service dreamed up, and we focused on what happened to people, user benefits. In 1984, I got a call from William Penn Mott. Bill Mott had just been appointed Parks Director. He finally agreed with Reagan that he'd take the job. And he said, Crompton, I'm going to have a convocation in the Tetons. And he brought in, and I guess they have these about every decade, and he brought in all his park superintendents, and he brought in his regional office people and his headquarters people, and there were 700 people in the Tetons. It was a terrific occasion. And he said, Crompton, you have 1 hour to get this lot excited about marketing, because the Park Service has got to get into marketing. He said, but there's a caveat, Crompton. You must not mention the word marketing once or they'll all switch out on you. I mean, they're not into billboards and hard sell and telemarketing, and you mention marketing, you're dead. So I went in and I talked for an hour, but I changed all my slides. Oops, I got one too many there, too fast. I crossed out marketing, and in my slides I put enhancing user satisfaction. And it went down like a dream. They were all on side. And so the word marketing gets in the way of what we do, and I try to stay clear of it because it screws up things. What we're really talking here is enhancing user satisfaction. So now I'm going to go through a few slides I used in the 80s. In the 80s, I would go in front of an audience when I was talking about user benefits, what happens to people. And I'd stand in front of an audience and I'd say, softball is an asinine activity. I mean, for a grown man to stand, or a woman, with a stick in their hand, in the middle of a field, and to waft it at a ball, make it a big ball so you can't miss it, whipped it at a ball and smack it, is intrinsically ludicrous. I mean, why would you do that? But golf's even worse. I mean, you stand there with a stick in your hand, and you swipe it at the ball, and then you jump into a truck, and you drive after it, and you chase this ball down 8 times. I mean, the whole thing is ludicrous. I mean, what would a Martian think sitting up there at these idiots running around striking balls and chasing little balls down holes? I mean, what is golf? Golf is, it's a series of crises interspersed with an occasional miracle where the lowest score wins and the winner buys the drinks. Now, does that make any sense to anybody? And you wonder why laymen think recreation is trivial and silly. It's perfectly obvious why. A couple of years ago, I was over in England, and Alistair Robinson, one of the gentlemen, a Scots friend of mine over there, we were in Scotland, and I said to Alistair, I've never figured out why in golf do they have 18 holes? I mean, why not 20 or 15? Why 18? He said, well, it's simple as 18 nips in a whiskey bottle. Well, that makes eminent sense. So what business are we in? What business are we in? What these silly games, you see, lead to some very profound human needs. It's about facilitating social interaction, or getting peer group recognition and prestige, or excitement, getting an adrenaline rush, or being successful at something, or it's being part of a group, or it's being important. It's the bottom of the seventh. All depends on you. Will you, won't you hit it? You're the focus of attention. Fantasy or illusion, you're a Tiger Wood out there, at least until you hit the ball. Relaxation, alleviation of stress and tension which may be obtained from hard, or in the case of softball and golf, no physical effort. I mean, that's the business we're in. It's about a feeling of well-being. It's about aesthetic, it's challenge and risk. See, it has nothing to do with these silly games, does it? And yet, that's what the general public think we do. They think we facilitate the silly games. You know, there's people who waste their days sitting out in this reservoir. And they're sitting out there in a boat where they've got their pole in the water. And I say to my friend Carson Watt, who does this on this Texas reservoir, I said, Carson, what are you doing out there? He says, I'm fishing. I said, I don't get it. I mean, it reminds me of my daddy's definition. He said, well, you have a wooden stick and you have a stringing hook on one end and an idiot on the other. I said, Carson, what? Why are you doing this? You could be a consultant for somebody and make a couple of $100, and you go to the store and you could buy 100 fish. I mean, why would you sit out there in this reservoir hoping some sorry fish will impale itself on a hook? I mean, it's grotesquely inefficient. But we know why they fish. Experience the out of doors. Develop feels, I like this one best. To pit wits with a fish, which about sums up the whole sorry business. To be with friends, to share skills, mental change, escape, take it home. And for some people, to eat food. But not for most of them. And yet, my good friends at Texas Parks and Wildlife, we've got half a dozen people there, biologists out there, who spend their life fussing about how to, produce, bigger, blinder, dumber fish faster. And the fish aren't important. It's not the fish that's important. We've got it right, have we? So before I came over to this country, I had my own business in England, and we were hired one time, a consultant business, we were hired one time by a fishing equipment factory. And in England, we don't have these grand reservoirs and stuff like you've got over here. We got the canals in the north of England, and I lived on the Leeds-Liverpool area, and on the canals, and what happens is, the canals, every Sunday, there's a fella there with his pole in the water.